And maybe it would be good to have a go with Thierry, so you kind of warm up.
Yes, self-criticism is viewers, they see something with a distance, so they see something on the wall or installed, so they see it from a distance. So this distance doesn't include them in the questioning, is it my fault? So they see something which might be political, but then they don't think this problem, I'm the origin of the problem. So then it creates a public which is, let's say, protected from self-criticism. And after, basically, the museum also makes sure that very fast they get a massage from the museum, let's say the cafeteria, the cakes, the comfortable zone. So they are not in danger. They have a little frisson, they shake a bit, but they get released very fast, and they don't accuse themselves of the problem. So basically here in Denmark, not only in Denmark, but we are the origin of the problem somehow. Some of the pollution, some of the weapons are made here, some of the things. So we are some of the origin of the problem. So if we have some refugee, we can ask ourselves, why are these refugees moving? Maybe it's because we are part of certain wars and stuff. So this question maybe are not always asked because then we risk to cut the funding or make the government a bit angry. So this make us not being self-critic, and somehow then this will make us accept the problems and then fall asleep again. So what we talked last time is that maybe the museum are a big sleeping engine that make everybody gas, everyone, like the news. I compare the museum sometimes with the news. TV avis.
May I?
Yes, please.
Reply to that? I think it's an interesting challenge and an observation that I can agree with to a certain extent, and then I also, of course, disagree.
You don't agree completely?
I don't agree completely. I promise not to agree completely, and I never completely agree, Thierry, because
why not?
Why not? Because I love to discuss with you, and if I agreed with everything, there was no discussion. So it's simple as that. I would like to come back to the sleeping thing and to the dream thing, because I think that yes, we might be sleeping machines, but we are also creators of very interesting dreams, and without dreaming there will be absolutely no progression in society. But let's get back to that. The part I agree with you with or on is the part about the hypocrisy of the art institution. Artists, dealers, museums, all included. I was, as probably many of you, or some of you, attending the opening days of the Venice Biennale, and it was easy to see that some 20,000 people came there during 4 days, all coming by flight, seeing works having been transported by containers, by airplanes, and so on. So it's quite easy to make the math. It's something like 15,000 tons of CO2 being emitted just for those 4 days. A scaring amount of those works being shown there are warnings about the climate change. So there's a paradox there, and we all contribute to the climate change, but we also at least show a certain will to embrace this problematics and to some way confront it. But there's a lot of paradoxes like that in the art world, and I think it's actually a real problem. So thanks for pointing to that. And if you go back in history now, I'm leading a museum that's not only a museum of contemporary and modern art, but also a historical, and probably first and foremost a historical museum. That is, we have a collection of Western art from the last, representing this last 700 years of European history. But then again, it's only a small fraction of that history that's represented, and it contains a lot of ideologies, power plays, power positions, and so on, which makes it, in my opinion, a really interesting collection with a lot of equally interesting blind spots and a lot of interesting omissions. So, and the question is, how do we deal with these paradoxes, with these omissions, with these blind spots, with these stories and these historical catastrophes, even that are embedded in our collections and in our daily practice as museums? Well, first of all, I would say that self-criticism is, in my opinion, and probably we are not self-critical enough, but self-criticism is really part of running an institution today, and you should be able to identify your own shortcomings as an institution and to be able to see what you are not able to do and to analyze the reasons for not being able to do that, which can be financial or a matter of attitude or tradition or whatever it is. So, and I actually think that self-criticism is part of what we do, but it might not be enough. But I think that self-criticism is already being self-reflection, being a self-reflexive institution. That is an institution that has an awareness of where it comes from and what it is to be a state-funded institution today. Is actually already a part of what we do. But of course, there is this dimension, I think, that is embedded in the institution as such that we can, for example, in 2015, we mounted an exhibition. It was before I took up the position as director. That was called Nature Strikes Back, in connection with or in conjunction with the climate summit. And there was a big pool of money you can apply as an institution and get funding for whatever you did that related to this climate summit. And the museum did what it should do, namely mounting an exhibition on how nature has been represented by art during 700 years, things that museums do. And people went there, and you can say, well, they had a good time and they saw some pictures, and then they went down to the cafeteria and had a coffee and a cake. Now at least it's organic. It wasn't organic back then. So there's a little progress.
It's more expensive also.
Yeah. It's also more expensive, yes. But being climate friendly is actually quite expensive. So that's part of a larger discussion. So, but anyway, and then you would say, Thierry, that people in the cafeteria that fell asleep, they might have been made conscious of some historical backgrounds for the situation we're in today. But basically, when they go to the cafeteria, they fall asleep and they forget everything. But they had a good time. So it was basically like seeing a mainstream movie, and then they went back home and saw a mainstream movie that same night. And I would say, well, first of all, I think that point of view or that criticism is potentially a little bit arrogant. Because what you do is that you generalize about what people actually take back home. Because you could say exactly the same thing here. You see, too late, global warming, haha. I get it, but then you grab your car at the parking space and you go back home and you emit a lot of CO2 and well, did it change your life? No, it didn't. That's the same theory about how people react. But what I would say on a more optimistic note is that you are actually able, as a museum, as an artist, we do whatever we can do to change consciousness. It doesn't come, like this in one go. It comes slowly. I think actually when we today, and you must admit, and the election yesterday is also testifying to that, even though it's also testifying to a lot of other dirty things, but at least there is a green movement that has, you might say it's too late, and you have given up already. But something is actually happening. It's moving slowly in the right direction. And why so? Probably because scientists and artists and institutions over the last 20 or 30 years have been pushing and pushing and pushing. You can't say that one single person or institution has changed everything, but you know, a little here and a little there actually changes. Suddenly, it opens up. Suddenly, the decision makers see something. Hopefully, it's not too late. So don't be too sure about what people take back home. That would be my challenge to you. Or do you think you know?
No, I'm not too sure. I just question it because anyway, I'm on the weak side. I am on the side. So I'm like the flaneur. I look from a distance. So of course I can only be arrogant because I don't have the state behind me. I don't have the position. I don't have the power. So I can only be a mosquito in this game and come with some bites as small as they can to the elephant. So, but the idea of question, no, my problem is not the cafe. The cafe is extra things. It's all these subjects that circulate that the museum or let's say the contemporary take with the illusion of treating them. Let's say, for example, the example of the Danvaux exhibition, for example. The recent Danvaux exhibition talk about the Vietnam War. Somehow. So it was some very historic reference, but that day, what was his name? McCain died. The day when you had the big opening, McCain died and was super involved in Vietnam, and his death became a kind of symbolic for some stunt, PR stunt and marketing stunt in the media and the politicians. So I was asking myself that day, precisely the Sunday, 29th of August last year, how can the Museum of Contemporary Art, like State Museum for Kunst, can refer of the new reading of the Vietnam War now? How Danvaux is doing that, you know? So then I saw a kind of distance between what the museum was expressing, which was the Vietnam that my father knew, or that the Vietnam of that period, and the Vietnam now, and the American vision of the Vietnam, the stunt of the death of Cain, how Denmark is connected to that, how does the museum... So I found it a bit hypocrite to pretend to look at the Vietnam conflict or the Vietnam situation in 2019, 18th August, without seeing what's happened now. So you think you reflect about the Vietnam, but it's an old Vietnam. So by having an old stuff in mind, you take the public's the capacity to react on the actual subject, which are super different than the one you were exhibiting inside. So in that way, I found the museum a bit dangerous because they kind of create this illusion of taking care of the problems, of the question. I remember an exhibition where I react also a lot. It was in 2000. It was when you were not there. It was a U-turn. The U-turn Triennale. You had an exhibition with what is the name of this Lebanese artist? I don't know. The museum were exhibiting some cars that have been exploded in Lebanon. A collection from 20 years ago, and this was not reflecting the conflict now. So it's always. And now you mentioned the election that is super positive. There is more and more green. What's happened with this super election where we can see it's positive, we should not be too late, it's optimist. It's a bit like when I see an article on the internet, you have this kind of thing circulating like, Norway is the first country to forbid plastic straw for drinking Coca-Cola. Wow. Yeah. Luxembourg is the first country to give free transport. Okay, Luxembourg, they have some things with their bank, which is not so perfect. The Norwegians, they can forbid and make PR around the fact they forbid plastic straw, but at the same time they drill around and they sell all kind of weapons. So they can make PR of this. So this kind of optimism about like some green have win, yeah, it's a small progress, but we should not jump off optimism with these things. And it's a lot of PR, and the contemporary art use also this PR stunt to make, like you see it also in biennales. Let's say I took this example of the refugee boat. Okay, we are caring about the refugee because we show a boat where they die. But it's the opposite. It doesn't create awareness, it creates cynicism, irony, distance. So sometimes it's not about State Museum for Kunst or something, but it's about the structure that seems to take some subject and then screws them into something else.
But can I step in here? I think in the, for instance, example of Jan Vo and the show at SMK, is it right to criticize institution for the expression of the artist? Because it was the artist.
It's the artist they select. They show
the artist's exhibition
and
his choice of what he wants to show and how he wants to show. And I don't think he wanted to deal with the problem of Vietnam or represent that issue. He was talking about himself and I guess his position in the world and his reflection and his personal view on the events and the way things happened. And then to kind of, that means that you can of course forever criticize and argue with each individual position of each artist and how they take things.
Well, just point what is missing.
Yeah, but you're free to do that, but I think that it would be difficult to say that institutions should then intrude and tell artists what they should.
No, they don't, but they choose a category which, for example, in this case of the Vietnam, that shows some careness about cultural identity, being once a refugee, what's happened in Vietnam. So on the PR of the artist, you find all these things, that show that the museum really care for the future of refugees, conflict and stuff. But this is one category. I never criticize one category. I just say you need to biodiversity of category, and I just say if we want to speak about, I just said this talked about Vietnam that day because I was way
sure.
And cannot threat any museum anyway.
Let me just say that the Jan Vo exhibition, without defending it in all its aspects, but the Jan Vo exhibition surely wasn't meant neither on the part of the museum nor on the part of Jan Vo himself, I think, as a way of solving any problem or even dealing in that pragmatic sense with the problem or the aftermath or the consequences of the Vietnam War. It was more like a way of interrogating the way the personal biography and the larger global history are intertwined or entangled, and that, I think, is the real point of that artistic project. Had he been interested in what Vietnam, which really has many consequences today as well, also in the American self-understanding and American foreign policy and so on, it still casts its shadows. Then he probably would have chosen other approaches, I think. So by criticizing it for not dealing with Vietnam today is, in my opinion, a little bit beside the point. But of course, I
was not criticizing. I was lacking something. I say, they talk about Vietnam, but it's missing. I'm missing something.
Yeah, that's missing something.
I'm not criticizing.
Yeah,
I'm missing.
I think, Thierry, that's missing something from where you stand from and from what you talk about and what you engage with, because you don't engage with aesthetics in the same way that Jan Vo does.
I asked you, I wanted to exhibit, I wanted to do something à la Jan Vo, I wanted to exhibit the gun of, now you can buy the gun where Van Gogh commits suicide. To express about my artistic identity and my too late mood.
I think you're unique
but I think
in your own way. Yeah.
One thing, and we have been discussing this way back, there are actually two things I would like to discuss with you in relation to this. One thing is about contemporaneity. What does it mean to you to be contemporary? What is the contemporary today, and what does it imply as an artist? And the other thing I would like to discuss is I refrain from calling it a fact, because of course it's not a fact, but the dimension and aspect of art production and art, what would you call it, appreciation, perception, whatever, that has to do with delay. There is always, in my opinion, a kind of delay, and maybe that's also why you are so interested in the trop tard dimension. It's maybe always trop tard, but that dimension of coming too late, of course, it's too late is too bad, but too late is also, I think, or the delayed response of art vis-a-vis whatever world or event is also the delay in which something is happening, something meaning emerges. So and that's maybe my one of the things I think that one of the most attractive things about art, be it historical or contemporary, is that there's always this little delay, this little anachronicity or anachronism that makes it contemporary, yes, but also a little bit non-contemporary, always. Even the most pretentiously contemporary art, if it's good, it's also not really aligned with the contemporary, and I think that's interesting.
Is it fatality?
Fatality?
Yeah, it's embedded in the... It cannot be different. It's always.
I don't know, all this with a question mark.
This capacity to be in time and not be the delay is connected to the training. I compare with tennis.
Yeah.
A smash, you can play tennis 10 years and you can smash one day, you get the ball at the right moment. So the capacity to be at the right moment, it's super possible. It's a question of the problem. It's not possible because the institution don't want it, or the artist has to be in the street, or so the problem is the visibility.
Yeah, but what Mikkel is saying is that he actually finds it beautiful
to
have the delay. He doesn't think it's a mistake or it's a problem.
Sure, but
he embraces the delay, while you urge that.
No, I have a whole wall called trop tard. This is all delay, and I cut them.
Your position is to urge the whole world to speed up.
No, my position is to take time the whole rainbow. So let's say I say that before I have this shower called In Advance of the Broken Arm. So first I'm interested, how can the artist be in advance the accident? You know, prevent the accident. The alarm, you pull it, you say, okay, there are going to be, let's say, okay, I take an example with Statens Museum for Kunst. 6 years ago, but now we interconnect stories. 6 years ago, a bunch of Nazis had a meeting in front of the museum with
the Perida movement.
Huh?
Yeah, the Perida movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were meeting in front of Statens Museum for Kunst. There were 50 people. I went there to make a film to try to understand where they were, because they were also in front of the museum, so I want to see which kind of people are attracted to use the museum as a background for their protest or for their show-off. So I went to interview a few people. There were about 50 people, 50 Nazis. Around them, I calculate double media. It was maybe 100 people filming them, you know? So I made a film about the fact that it was double more people filming them than people participating. Now we are a few years later, what do we observe? So as an artist, I say, I pull the alarm. I am not inside Statens Museum for Kunst, because this is for other artists. I'm outside. And then what I observe, that the xenophobia will grow super fast in Denmark, because they encourage this kind of event to be a media event and film. So there is, I would say, danger. The more we film these people, the more they will grow. What do we see now? So maybe I was wrong, maybe my alarm was not right. What do we observe now in the last period? That these people grow super fast, and they found a technique to attract medias and get out and get more. So let's say what I observed at that moment Maybe I was in time, maybe I was in advance of what is happening now, maybe I was in advance, so I can be sometimes in advance. For example, Nadia, when she was in emergency room in Hanoi, she made a work about 4 years before he came out about Putin and his homophobic laws. She did something 4 years ago. Another artist copies that, and then Amnesty copies that, but then we are 3 years later. 4 years later, it's everywhere. She did it 4 years before. Maybe she was in advance, because she said, look, in Russia, this is going to happen. Nobody listened. After we did work in the emergency room about camper flu. We say 5 years ago, we say, okay, now he has been voted that Denmark is going to use 25 million camper flu. We express about that. We sound like stupid. 3 years later, people say, oh, camper flu. So sometimes the artist is a little noticing a few things. So I'm interested to be in advance. Then I'm interested, if possible, to be in time, at least to be in time. If you have to pull the alarm, you stop the accident. And then, when you are too late, I'm interested in the delay, and now, basically, I'm interested to observe that it's too late. So, I think I cover the whole rainbow. I'm not disinterested with delay. Now I say that we need different categories in the museum, like you can have cappuccino, cafe latte, no, I stop with this cafe. You have different categories of art. You have one art category which is in delay, and another category which is in time. I take this example from Mannheim. They have this painting. It's the execution of Emperor Maximilian from Edouard Manet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I took this painting as an example to work with, because this is called in the catalog, the word you find the most in the museum catalog is the word the artist is depicting. So here you have Edouard Manet is depicting the killing of the execution of the emperor. So we have found, the museum have rise up the idea of the artist depicting. Which means depicting, if I translate, is that the guy gets shot, everything is a catastrophe, and the artist it's just depict. So I would say, what kind of father are these artists if they just come and depict everything, all the dead bodies and all the people getting shot, and so, okay, they are in delay, but can the artist not depict, but basically stop something, let's say the Nazi in Denmark, the climate change, something. You can also do an exhibition about climate change, how the nature looks after climate change, things like that. You can also think that if we do this and that, maybe we could have stopped it and things. So to embed the artist with the idea of being with a delay is one category. But how many floors you have in your museum? You have different. You have 50 rooms. So why don't you have a room? We are 400 artists in this project. You have Nadia here. You have some other. Why is that not a room where we can pulse now and show what we can? Why not? Why is not possible? Because it's not a
category which is contemporary enough, or it's unpredictable is a problem.
It's ultra contemporary.
Why don't you have a room where we pulse the now?
It's an unanswerable question, but I would say that there are lots of nows in a museum where we have lots of categories, lots of types of works, so many types that I would say it even, and that's actually my challenge. I think a challenge in that we call it art for want of a better word, but it's actually many different things. All of them in one way or another dealing with imagery and representation, but the approaches are so manifold that the term art is just a kind of a very vague umbrella for all that different. And I think one category, at least in principle, is the now, which would necessarily have to be a room that changed every hour. We have some works in the collection, Godipal's work that changes every second day. Godipal comes and makes changes to his work so that it actually is in constant progress, or in constant, it's not progress in a linear sense, but it's just changing, and then he takes away, of course, because it's a museum and all that, all what comes with that, we have made a contract with him so that there are some things he can take away and other things he cannot take away. And you might criticize that. We have a contract, but that's just the way it has to be. But he's making changes, and we have other works. For example, one that was acquired back in the mid-90s by Erik Andersen, the Danish Fluxus artist, that implies, among other things, a lot of wheelchairs or chairs with wheels on them, designed back in the 50s, that are placed, and they are moved around in the museum. So that's a kind of now, but most importantly, I think there is the now of those who are visiting. The singularity of associations, talks in front of works, all that. I'm not saying this to, in any sense, criticize the position that you take. I'm just saying that there are many nows in a museum, also like mine, which is both a contemporary art museum and a historical museum.
But you don't have to agree with my position.
No.
You just have to represent it, because as a state-funded institution, you have to include any. You don't have to. If I'm dressed in red, if you don't like red shoes, you don't have to exclude me because I have red shoes, or because I'm French, or because I'm ultra contemporary or something. It's a museum.
So it's not every day that you're actually witnessing a meeting between an artist and a museum director, negotiating a position. So he's proposing making an exhibition.
No, I'm not proposing, because I will say no. You're too slow.
It's too late.
I will say, as a director, you don't have to like or disagree or agree. You have to represent different categories, like ethnic categories. In the museum, you also must have some artists that have not done the Danish Art Academy, or not Danish, or we can also go in the statistic, of how artists are represented by race, by some people do it with women, but we can do things like that. And also the category. So you mentioned Goodipal. So let's say I am going to, what I call the now. It's not to change that every hours. Is to say now it's something happening. Let's say we are the day after the election. It's not your problem because you're a Danish museum, but no, it's an Italian architect. But how do you express about the growth of fascism in Italy today in the museum? Maybe it's not your problem, Maybe it is your. So how is it reflect? I mentioned again, if Denmark go in war in Iran tomorrow, how will you reflect about that? So this idea of pulsing the now is not only about me and Masha visiting, having a conversation. It's also a bit. You cannot, let's say, have dormant and pitching artists that want to work that way to have the museum, because the museum is the house of all artists, also that category. But the problem I think you have. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just a mosquito here. The problem you have, is that if you have in the institution something which is out of control, and Erland says the same yesterday, we cannot trust you or something. It's that if you have, if Goodipal has 3 objects that you have agreed already what they are, if he does that and that, you're safe. But if you don't know what he's going to speak about this one, maybe he's going to speak something you don't agree, or the government or the sponsor don't agree. Then the unpredictability is your worst enemy, because as a director or as a curator, you stop controlling the art. And this is why you don't have emergency art or ultra contemporary art, because then it's out of control.
It might be so. Point taken. Yeah, control is of course part of running.
It's also a state-run.
Well, yeah, it's a state-run institution, but it doesn't really change a lot, I think. Of course, there are, but it's a very dreary position to take to talk about control and the need of control. Of course, there is a sense in which you, as a museum, needless to say, need to have control of things, audience flow, building maintenance, security, all that. There's a lot in a museum. There's just, let's face it, there's a lot of control. But now what you're saying is that we also are in a kind of unadmitted unadmitted need of control of the works. Not only the works in the kind of conservational sense, but also works the meaning,
breathing one.
Yes, yeah, and maybe it is so. I don't know, but actually, I could imagine having works changing within the confines that just happen to be those of a museum, where you have people, you have to control the crowd, they pay a ticket, or they come in for free if they are below 18 and so on, and you have to control if they wear big baskets or with stuff in it, and are there weapons, and so on and so forth. But I could actually imagine works saying things that we basically are unable to control, in the sense that the statements or the meaning produced changes all the time.
Great, you have a free room now.
No, I'm just saying in principle. But I must admit, yes, it is a little bit scary. And why is that? It's not easy to say. It's not because I've got nothing. It's not that I've got anything against the way you work or other artists trying to be hyper contemporary, in the sense changing from hour to hour before it's too late, or even trying to be ahead of events. But maybe I haven't yet seen the project that does it in a way that convinces me.
So it's about you.
No. I'm actually not that it's totally out of my control, but we are actually 10 people deciding together in unity what's going to be the next exhibition.
So why none of these 10 people never passed us?
Personally.
Why is these 10 people never passed? For example, when we did it in New York in PS1, they were happy about it, and they were super happy about it because visitors, they were paying many times to come back. You know, because when you have a changing policy exhibition, then the public get addiction and come back and buy more tickets. So actually, the fulfilling the viewer, the freedom of speech.
Can I rephrase a little bit? And that's something that we've been discussing with Thierry a lot, is that there seems to be a disbalance in how Thierry's work or the work of like-minded artists like him is treated by the institutions in Denmark compared to the institutions around the world, because it seems that the appreciation and interest in his practice is much more stable abroad. While in Denmark we continue to have the situation where now we hold 2 exhibitions with him, and for both exhibitions we seem to have a lesser interest on the institutional side to the shows. So it's just something. Well, when he is invited to take part in the exhibitions in other places, there is clearly a success among the audience, in an interest in what he does, and an interest among the media. So
what's wrong?
Yeah, it seems that we acknowledge some kind of unspoken agreement among the Danish institutions, and I guess what he's trying to get to in his way is, if there is such, or
a blacklist.
Yes.
for being sheer paranoia.
For being too
sheer paranoia.
Yeah. So that what Mikkel says to you is that in their view they observe what you do, and they haven't been convinced.
But they don't have to be convinced. The idea, I'm not a salesman selling car where they have to like my car. They just have to represent what's his tendency. This idea to be in the now. And now I took that example last time. Hans Ulrich Obrist, which is a pope in this kingdom, is doing an exhibition called It's Urgent. It's an exhibition called It's Urgent, with Charlottenburg, with a reclame bureau called Urgency Agency, and something. So Sudanese, these words are going out the art world. So they use the same rhetorical, so we are in the now, the current affair, we have to look at this, you know. So all these things, the dictionary we publish or you published, I found the sentence in the biennale concept, this biennale concept, this other biennale concept, they are there. So let's say this idea of the urgent, the emergency, the now, the pulsing, the current affair, and something, and also the social thing is there. So
the whole idea of now.
It is in the air. It's not the new avant-garde. It was maybe avant-garde 10 years ago where it was a bit strange, but now it's mainstream. It's every biennale, you know. So suddenly.
So then Hans Ulrik Uberist comes to Denmark with a curated project called It's Urgent, and for us not to include the Danish representative of this concept is a sin.
Why not?
Well, he comes in with
I
the
can't
famous.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And I will say another thing. It's because I have been also when Tauber was working at Denmark Radio. I have also meetings. Let's say now I explain the more views of the urgent emergency platform. So basically, the emergency platform is to open a room in a museum where artists can come not every hour because it's too much. Every day they can come with an artwork which is about today's urgency. So let's say if Denmark start a war, they can express about that war. If there is more Nazis, they speak about this. So they take the issue of today. For example, Nadia, she made a project where pedophile had a conference at the same time that day. So we take the things, the artists become nearly like a detective pulling alarm. And it's shown with artwork every day, and every day there is a debate, the public can join, the media can come, it's including the public, there is 2-3 hours debate around the artworks, so the artist can be challenged in his vision in a debate, the room is round. Then I wanted to connect, because it's all about visibility. If you have nobody in a room, it doesn't matter. So I try to connect that with a television program, daily reporting. So instead of having the weather report 10 minutes in the news, you will have 2 minutes of what the artist is perceiving today. So I wanted to connect the media with the emergency room and so on. And I visited Tauber about that 3 times. We did an answering together. I talked with Aubry a few times. The urgency agency told to me a few times. And the guys that make the festival also as well. And Sudanese, they come with a project. It's urgent and all that. But what was urgent is to sell vodka. So that's what I said before. So I get a bit, let's say, I ask myself some question about what's going on in this religion called the contemporary art and their priest.
Yeah, I can't tell you. It's probably.
But if you had the project Emergency Room in your museum, like we speak about it for now 13 years, if this has happened, let's say 11 years ago, because then we will have 2 years to produce it. Then we will not be in this situation, you know. So the thing is that
I am not in a situation. You are in a situation.
I'm not in a situation. I am in a non-situation. So let's say these things happen that suddenly all these keywords, the now, the urgency, pump out into reclaim for vodka and stuff. You know, pump out in different ways. And I don't understand why this is happening.
I think it's a very interesting question. I actually try to warn my marketing people as well as my contemporary art curators to use or to overuse the word contemporary and now and urgency and all that, because we're a museum, we are not very apt at being urgent or urgently present. But then at the same time, I must say that we also have a drive towards reinventing the language of the museum, which is difficult because it's such a kind of heavy institution. So of course we are all, I guess, trying to come to grips with this contemporaneity. But one thing I try to avoid is the overuse of the contemporary, because I still think that museums.
You're rooted in the historical.
Well, yes, we are rooted, but not in the sense that we are always looking back. But we have interesting roots going in many directions, and actually when we invite artists to make things in the X room. we always try to urge them to take or to relate to the collection, because we are, of course, a museum of contemporary art, but we are first and foremost a collection of things that have been done.
There's money. But why do they do it in the money room in Germany?
I have to interrupt you and say that we're soon coming to an end of our time of the conversation.
No.
This time we really had a discussion about SMK and Thierry Geoffroy and their lack of interaction in the practical terms. But that's also interesting, and I think that led me to the idea to pose the final question before the two of you. To summarize in short, if you had one advice to give to Mikkel as the director of the institution that he is the director of, what would it be?
No, I don't know. Anyway, it's blocked. So it's what I say. I don't know what to say, because whatever I say will be entertainment, will be whatever. What is important for me at the end? It's the result, the score. If we can do this or not do that, obviously we cannot do it. So I'm not going to say something. We are not going to have ultra contemporary in this museum or this other museum. It's blocked. I don't know if it's a blacklist or whatever. It's just I feel the things are blocked, and I have nothing. What I say is going to be entertainment. It doesn't. What I have to say. I have said for 20 years. I don't have more to say. It's blocked. So you know what I have to say. I have books around. So I have nothing else to say. I say it already. If there is no flexibility,
it's still
if it's blocked, it's blocked. I have nothing else to add.
Yeah. Okay. So no more advices.
No.
Okay. And if there was one advice that you could give in short to Thierry?
Don't give up.
I think we're happy to finish the second part of this enduring torture of Thierry Geoffroy.
No, thank you, Mikkel, to come and
thank you.
Continue.
Our ultimate message from all of us to you, Thierry, is that we respect, admire, and look forward to more of your art. We don't think you should give up. We think that the I give up statement for you is just a way to pretend that you are, how some animals use these tricks when they pretend that they're dead, and then when you come up to them, they attack. So I continue to say that I don't think that you're actually capable of giving up, because you have so much vibrant energy and so much to give to the people. We'll keep on working hard to make sure that you can continue doing what you're doing. And we thank everyone for being part of this bloody debate. And especially thank you, Mikkel, for such engaging talk, and also for being so diverse in your positions, and not just taking the conversation from your point of view, but being very wide. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.